I first heard about the house because no one could agree on what was haunting it. Not because there were too many theories, but because there were too many ghosts. Every investigator who stepped inside came back with a different experience, all of them isolated, all of them confined to a single room, and none of them overlapping. That alone made the case unusual. What made it disturbing was that every spirit, no matter where it manifested, gave the same warning. Do not open the basement door. The house sat on a quiet residential street, ordinary enough to disappear into the neighborhood, 2 stories. White siding, a narrow staircase visible through the front window, the kind of place you'd never look twice at. But inside, the air felt divided, like invisible borders ran through the walls. Each room had its own weight, its own temperature, its own presence. The owners had moved out after only 6 weeks. They didn't flee screaming. They packed carefully, locked the doors, left furniture behind. They told me the house wasn't evil, but it was crowded. Too crowded. Like walking into separate lives that never blended. I entered during daylight to get a baseline. Even then, the silence felt unnatural, not quiet held. The first thing I noticed was the hallway. As soon as I stepped inside, the temperature dropped. Not the whole house, just the hallway. A narrow strip of cold running from the front door to the back stairs. My breath fogged there and nowhere else. I took 2 steps forward and heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady. Back and forth. Someone was pacing the hallway ahead of me. I called out. No response. The pacing didn't stop. It wasn't reacting to me at all. It was trapped in repetition, like a man walking off a thought he'd never finish. When I moved closer, the footsteps moved too, always staying 10 feet ahead. Never closer. Never farther. A presence locked in motion. I backed away and the pacing continued without hesitation. That told me something important. This wasn't a ghost aware of visitors. This was something replaying itself endlessly. I moved into the kitchen next. The moment I crossed the threshold, the air warmed, comfortably so. The smell of old wood and something faintly sweet hung in the room. That's when I heard the whisper. Soft, careful, right beside my ear. Don't go downstairs. The voice belonged to a child. Young, calm, not frightened, almost protective. I spun around, expecting someone to be standing behind me. The kitchen was empty, but the whisper came again, this time from near the cabinets. He doesn't like it when people go down there. I asked who he was. Silence, then a small sound, bare feet shifting on tile. I felt the presence move around the room, staying low, near the counters, like a child hiding during a game. The voice returned once more, barely audible. We tried to tell them. I left the kitchen slowly. Under the staircase, the temperature dropped again, but this time it felt heavy, pressurized, like crouching beneath something alive. I didn't need equipment to know I wasn't alone there. My body reacted before my mind did. Shoulders tense, breathing shallow. That's when I saw it. A shadow, not cast by anything. No light source matched its shape. It was tucked into the corner beneath the stairs, folded unnaturally low, like something crouched with knees pulled to its chest. It didn't move when I stepped closer. It didn't flee. It didn't react. It watched. I felt eyes on me without seeing eyes. A deep, instinctual warning ran through me. This wasn't a residual presence. It was aware, intelligent, but restrained, like it knew its boundaries. I asked it one question. What's in the basement? The shadow shifted slightly, compressing further into itself. Then came a sound I didn't expect. Crying. It echoed from upstairs. I moved toward the staircase, drawn by the sound. The crying grew louder as I climbed. It led me to the bathroom at the end of the hall. The door was closed. The moment my hand touched the knob, the crying stopped. I opened the door. The bathroom was ice cold. The mirror fogged instantly, and from the corner near the tub came the sound again, soft sobbing. A woman's voice, broken, exhausted. Grief soaked into every breath. I can't stop hearing it, she said. I asked her what she meant. She didn't answer right away. The sobbing continued, then slowed. Finally, she spoke again. It talks from below. I asked her who she was. I used to try to drown it out, she whispered. Water, fans, music, anything, but it got louder. The sobbing returned, sharper now. We locked the door. We sealed it, but it learned. I asked her what learned. Her voice dropped to a whisper, so low it barely registered. It learned us. I backed out of the bathroom, my heart pounding. I stood at the top of the stairs and listened. From the hallway, the pacing continued. From the kitchen, faint movement. From beneath the stairs, silence but a presence pressing outward. From the bathroom, crying. 4 spirits, 4 rooms, none crossing into the others, none acknowledging each other's existence, all orbiting the same point, the basement door at the bottom of the stairs. I hadn't opened it yet, but I could feel it. Something below was aware of me, and it was waiting. I returned to the house that night with my full team, knowing daylight had only shown me the surface. Whatever lived in that structure didn't reveal itself all at once. It compartmentalized. It separated. It watched how far you were willing to go before pushing back. That kind of intelligence doesn't come from trauma alone. It comes from something that understands control. We started in the hallway. The moment we stepped inside, the pacing began again. Slow, measured, heel to toe, heel to toe. It never acknowledged us, never sped up, never slowed down. The sound moved past us, through us, like we weren't there at all. I stood still and counted the steps. 12 from end to end, turn. 12 back, turn. Over and over, a loop without error. I asked out loud, "Do you know you're dead?" The pacing didn't stop, but the air shifted. Not in the hallway, in the kitchen. A faint whisper drifted down the corridor. "Don't ask him questions." We moved into the kitchen together. The warmth returned instantly, like stepping into a different building. The whispering child made herself known again, but this time she spoke from under the table, not behind me. "He doesn't hear you," she said. "He only hears the house." I asked her who she was talking about. "The walker," she replied. "He was here before the door." I asked her what door. She didn't answer. Instead, she asked me a question that froze me in place. "Did you come to open it?" I told her no. She didn't believe me. From beneath the stairs came a low sound. Not a growl, not a voice, pressure, like something large shifting its weight slowly, deliberately. The shadow we had seen earlier tightened into itself, darker now, denser. My EMF meter spiked only in that corner, then dropped again instantly. I approached the stairs carefully. The shadow moved, just enough to remind me it could. I asked it, "Why are you hiding?" It didn't speak, but the temperature around me dropped sharply, and a voice echoed faintly from the bathroom upstairs. "He's not hiding." We went up. The bathroom door was open this time. Steam rolled slowly across the tile, though no water was running. The woman's crying was quieter now, controlled. She stood near the mirror, though her reflection didn't move. "I told them not to come," she said without looking at me. I asked who. "All of them," she replied. "Everyone who thought they could fix it." She finally turned toward me. Her face was wrong. Not monstrous, just incomplete, like a memory that had been worn thin. Her eyes were too dark, too deep, like wells that had never reflected light. "What's in the basement?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. "It's not a ghost," she said, "and it's not dead." I asked her what it was. She swallowed hard. "It's a listener." That word stayed with me. She continued. "It learned how to sound like us, how to feel like us, how to wait." The crying returned, but now it wasn't sadness. It was regret. "I was the first one who tried to lock it in," she said. "I thought if I sealed the door, it would stop." I asked her if it did. She shook her head again. "It got quieter," she said, "and that was worse." Downstairs, something shifted hard enough to make the staircase creak. A deep thump echoed through the wood, not violent but deliberate, like a knock that wasn't meant to be answered. The pacing in the hallway stopped for the first time. Complete silence followed. Then a new sound. Breathing. Not upstairs. Not in the hallway. From below the stairs. The shadow uncoiled slightly, stretching upward along the underside of the steps. For the first time, it spoke. "Don't make it hear you." The voice wasn't threatening. It was terrified. I realized then that none of the spirits in this house were haunting it. They were hiding in it. Every room was a shelter, a boundary, a last stand. The child stayed low, quiet, careful. The woman drowned herself in sound. The man walked endlessly to stay out of the basement's awareness. And the shadow stayed closest to the door, acting like a guard who knew it couldn't win a fight, only delay it. I stood at the top of the basement stairs. The door was old, solid, reinforced from the outside, scratched deeply along the frame, not from something trying to get out, but from something being dragged in. I put my hand near the handle. Every presence in the house reacted at once. The hallway filled with rapid footsteps, no longer pacing, but running. The bathroom erupted in sobs. The kitchen went ice cold. The shadow surged upward, stretching across the wall, larger than it had any right to be. And the child screamed, "Don't." I pulled my hand back. From beneath the door came a sound that made my stomach drop. My own voice, calm, familiar. "Zach," it said, "I know why you're here." The house fell completely silent. Whatever was in the basement wasn't trapped. It was listening. And now, it had learned me. I stepped away from the basement door, but the sound of my own voice lingered in the air, vibrating the walls like a memory that wouldn't fade. It didn't repeat itself. It didn't need to. It had already done what it wanted. It had proven it could reach me. The team stood frozen. No one spoke. The house felt tighter now, like it had drawn its boundaries closer. I looked around and realized something had changed. The spirits weren't just reacting anymore. They were repositioning. The pacing man in the hallway had moved closer to the stairs. His footsteps were faster now, uneven, breaking the rhythm he'd kept for who knows how long. He wasn't looping anymore. He was guarding. Each step landed harder than the last, as if he were trying to anchor himself to the floor. From the kitchen came the sound of cabinets opening and closing softly. The whispering child spoke again, but not to us. She was counting under her breath, numbers out of order, skipping, starting over. A distraction, something to keep herself from listening to what was happening below. The shadow under the stairs had expanded, stretching across the wall like a living stain. It wasn't hiding anymore. It was bracing. I asked the shadow one question, carefully, quietly. What happens if it hears us too clearly? The shadow didn't hesitate. It remembers, it said. The word hit me harder than any threat. Remembering meant more than recognition. It meant reconstruction. It meant the thing in the basement could rebuild someone from sound alone. Voice, cadence, emotion, fear. I turned to the woman upstairs. Her crying had stopped. She stood in the doorway now, staring down the staircase, her hands clenched into fists she didn't seem aware of. "You sealed it once," I said. "How?" She shook her head slowly. "We didn't seal it," she said. "We fed it." That answer chilled me. She explained in broken fragments. Years ago, before the house changed owners, the basement had been used as a listening room, not for music, for people. A man who lived there believed voices carried power. Confessions, prayers, last words. He built the room to amplify sound, to trap it, to let it soak into the walls. People came willingly at first. Then they didn't. When something answered back, when the voice beneath the floor began repeating things no one had said aloud, they tried to close it. They locked the door, reinforced it, covered it, but the listening didn't stop. It just learned patience. The woman's voice trembled. "It doesn't need the door open," she said. "It just needs to be noticed." Down below, something shifted. Not loud, not violent, intentional, like a breath being drawn slowly through old lungs. The child's counting stopped. "I think it's smiling," she whispered. The hallway lights flickered, then went out completely. Darkness pressed in, thick and heavy. My equipment still worked, but the house felt blind now, like it had turned its eyes inward. I heard a new sound then, a chair scraping across concrete. From the basement, followed by a voice that didn't belong to any of us. "We're all here," it said. The pacing man let out a sound that wasn't a word. The shadow recoiled. The woman collapsed against the wall upstairs, sobbing uncontrollably. Whatever line had been holding the house together was breaking. I made a decision then, not to open the basement door, but to confront what was using it. I stood at the top of the stairs and spoke firmly, clearly. "You're not them," I said. "You're what's using them." Silence followed, then laughter. Not loud, not mocking, curious. "You came to listen," it replied. "Now let me hear you." The air grew heavy around my chest. Every sound I made felt amplified. My breath, my heartbeat, even the shift of my weight on the floor seemed too loud. The thing in the basement was tuning itself to me. I felt something brush against my thoughts, not possession, not control, but sampling, like fingers rifling through memories, pulling at moments tied to sound, voices I'd heard before, screams, whispers, please. The child screamed again. It's learning you. The basement door rattled once, not from being opened, from something leaning against it from the other side. The wood bowed inward slightly, enough for dust to fall from the frame. I knew then what would happen if I stayed too long. The house didn't need another ghost. It needed another voice. I ordered everyone out, immediately, no debate. As we moved toward the front door, the house reacted violently. Footsteps ran overhead, cabinets slammed. The shadow tore itself free from the wall and stretched across the ceiling, blocking our path for a split second before dissolving. The basement door slammed once behind us. Not open, closed. Like something inside had decided to wait. We burst out into the night air, gasping like we'd surfaced from deep water. The house stood quiet behind us, innocent, still, too still. I turned back one last time. From an upstairs window, I saw movement, not a figure, a shape made of shifting darkness, pressing its face against the glass from the inside. No features, just an impression, listening. I knew we hadn't ended anything. We had only reminded it that people still came to the house, and that meant it would wait again. Patient, learning, collecting voices, preparing for the next time someone stood at the basement door and listened too closely. We left the property before sunrise, but the house didn't feel finished with us. Even miles away, the silence inside the van felt wrong, like something had followed not physically but acoustically. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the engine, the click of equipment, our breathing. I caught myself lowering my voice without realizing it, afraid of being heard. When I reviewed the audio later, that fear became justified. There were voices on our recordings that none of us remembered speaking, not whispers layered beneath static, full sentences, calm, patient, repeated phrases we'd said earlier in the night, but rearranged, reconstructed, like someone had taken pieces of us and practiced putting them back together. One clip stood out above all the others. It was my voice. Not copied exactly, but improved. Slower, clearer, more confident. I know how to stay, it said. That wasn't something I ever said in the house. The more we analyzed the evidence, the more disturbing the pattern became. Every spirit we encountered was once human. Every one of them had been recorded speaking about the basement before their death. Interviews, audio diaries, therapy tapes, confessions. The house didn't kill them. It absorbed them. The listener beneath the floor wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a demon in the traditional sense. It was a presence shaped by attention, by sound, by memory, something that fed on identity itself, breaking people down into voices and rebuilding them into echoes. The basement wasn't a prison. It was a studio. I spoke to a former owner weeks later. He refused to go on camera. His voice shook through the phone. You think it's haunting rooms, he said. It's not, it's cataloging them. He told me the house used to be louder, more active, until someone tried to cleanse it years ago. A group went in with equipment, prayers, chanting. They believed silence was the answer. They were wrong. Silence made it stronger. Without noise, it learned to wait. Without voices, it learned to remember. That explained why the spirits stayed separate, why they never crossed paths. They weren't trapped by walls. They were protecting their identities. If they stayed still, if they repeated the same actions, the same sounds, over and over, they stayed themselves. The man paced so he wouldn't forget who he was. The woman cried so her grief drowned out everything else. The child whispered so softly it couldn't be copied clearly. The shadow stayed silent entirely, sacrificing its voice to guard the door.
Upstairs.
They weren't haunting the house. They were surviving it. I asked myself the question I always ask at the end of an investigation. What happens next? The house is still standing, still owned, still sealed. The basement door remains shut, reinforced, ignored. On paper, nothing has changed. But houses like that don't need doors opened. They just need people to listen, and people always do. A realtor called me 2 months after the investigation. She didn't know who I was. She didn't mention the house by name. She asked a simple question. Is it normal, she said, for a house to repeat what you say? I didn't answer right away. She continued. My client was walking through. He laughed. And the house laughed back. Same voice, same tone. I told her not to sell it. She asked why. I told her because the house wasn't empty. She went quiet. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. It already knows his name. I ended the call. I don't know how many voices it has now. I don't know how many it needs. But I know this. There are places where ghosts don't linger. They hide. And there are houses that don't want you dead. They want you remembered. If you ever walk into a home where every room feels occupied, if the silence feels too focused, if you hear something repeat your words a second too late, don't ask questions. Don't answer back. And whatever you do, don't open the basement door.